world moves fast. Your workday? Even faster. Pitching products, drafting reports, analyzing data. Microsoft 365 Copilot is your AI assistant for work. Built into Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and other Microsoft 365 apps you use. Helping you quickly write, analyze, create, and summarize. So you can cut through clutter and clear a path to your best work. Learn more at Microsoft.com/M365 Copilot.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
AI is incredible. It can teach you how to fry an egg and even write a poem, pirate style. Yarr! But it knows nothing about your work. Slackbot is different. It doesn't just know the facts. It knows your schedule. It can turn a brainstorm into a brief. And it doesn't need to be taught. Because Slackbot isn't just another AI. It's AI that knows your work as well as you do. Visit slack.com/meet Slackbot to learn more.
The idea of a hollow earth trends back to ancient times, where many of the beliefs surrounding the subject stood as answers to life's greatest questions, such as the time prior to one's life or the exact opposite in the afterlife. Ancient Greeks had details of hidden tunnels and caverns just under the Earth's surface, which stood as entrances to the underworld in their mythology. Celtic myths described their own version of one of these tunnels that they called Cruachan, or Ireland's Gate to Hell, that housed strange creatures who would at times find their way to the surface of the earth. Stories, legends, lore, and mythologies from literally every corner of the world has contributed their own beliefs in the world below our feet. But the details of the underworld don't just come from ancient times, but rather from all of human written history. As mentioned in part 1, the 1600s brought us Sir Edmund Halley and his contribution to the idea of the concentric shells underground where civilizations and various flora and fauna lived out their lives. The 1800s brought us John Cleves Symes, who was the first to provide a description and a name for these gigantic theoretical holes at the most northern and southern points of our planet. Then in the mid-1900s, Admiral Byrd traveled by plane into unknown tropical territories in the most southern tip of the Antarctic, where he told stories of prehistoric animals roaming, ancient high-tech cities, and an unknown race of beings who inhabit them. More on that in the next 2 episodes. But today we will stick to the ancient details of this incredible subject, as well as learn about a cult that based its entire belief on the fact that we do not live on the surface of the earth, but rather on the inside of it, before diving headfirst into one of the most incredible stories of all time, in the famed Shaver mystery and Richard Sharp Shaver's stories of a subterranean world that he visited multiple times called Lemuria. All this and more as we dive into the topic of the Hollow Earth, Part 2, Legends, Lore, and Beliefs. Welcome back to Infinite Rabbit Hole.
Imagine that this line represents time, present 1985, future, past. Prior to this point in time, somewhere in the past, the timeline skewed into this tangent, creating an alternate 1985. Alternate to you, me, and Einstein, but reality for everyone else.
Welcome back to the Infinite Rabbit Hole, everybody. I am your host, Jeremy. I'm not going to talk much right now. All I'm going to do is ask you for that sweet 5-star rating on anywhere that you listen to this podcast, and then go ahead and share it with your friends. Other than that, I really don't have much to say. I'll see you on the other end, travelers. Enjoy. legend. The Scandinavians tell of a legend of a land of paradise to the north that they refer to as Ultima Thule. This is modernly believed to have been Greenland, but many disagree, and even the name Ultima Thule simply means, quote, a distant unknown region, the extreme limit of travel and discovery, as contextualized by Britannica.com. But legends of a vast world under the crust of the earth doesn't end with the Scandinavians. In fact, many civilizations throughout history tell of an underworld. Some of these inner realms were described as a place of death and torture, where others were described as a world of paradise. There's the Sumerians who told of Kigal. The Egyptians called their underworld Duat. It was known as Hades in Greece and Rome. Buddhism was the primary origin of the concept of Agartha. Indian mythology had Naraka. In Japan, it is Jigoku. Germanic civilizations had its Helheim. Incas, Aztecs, and Mayans all had Ucapacha, Mictlan, and Mitnal, respectively. And the Christians believe in hell. Many of these beliefs were taken very serious for a very long time, and some still do. As so in 1569, a German cartographer by the name of Gerardus Mercator would create a large map that rendered the spherical Earth into a flat surface with a grid-like pattern so as to be easier for navigational uses for those at sea. The second most influential map that he created was of a blank, quote, from space view of the Arctic. In this now defunct map, he clearly inserted a large sea into the center of the icy mass, which was said to be influenced by the Greek mythological place of Hyperborea. At the center of this ice-locked sea, he placed a large black rock, which he called the Black Precipice. According to author David Standish's book Hollow Earth, Mercator described this rock as, quote, the Landstone Mountain toward which all compasses presumably pointed. This was built on upon later to include that this black precipice formed a donut shape of sorts that included a large sea in the inner circle. This was thought to be a representation of the northern Symes Hole. Fiction. Although there are many books authored to try to convince the public or simply go over the history of the idea of the Hollow Earth, there were also a large number of fictional books that were created for entertainment purposes. The first of which was a book titled Relation d'un voyage au pôle arctique au pôle antarctique by an unknown French author in 1721. Another French novel by the name Olemachus ou les voyages extraordinaires d'un Égyptien dans la terre intérieure in 1734. Baron Ludwig Holberg's novel, Journey of Niels Klim to the World Underground, was published in 1741. In this book, the protagonist explores the inner planet of Nazar, where the civilizations are described as having different habits and morals to those on the surface. In 1751, Robert Paltick's The Life and Adventure of Peter Wilkins was published and is easily one of the oddest works on the concept of Hollow Earth. In this book, the protagonist takes off for the Antarctic and marries a winged humanoid of the inner Earth, where they have multiple children. But according to David Standish, the oddest of the earlier works was a book titled Icosamaron by Giacomo Casanova in 1788. Not to give away the story, but as a brief description, the story surrounds a race of inner hermaphroditic dwarves whose civilization is segregated by their various colors of skin, with red being on top of the hierarchy, who feed off each other's breast for nourishment, all while being nudists. The previous mentioned Simesonia was published in 1820 and was the first American Hollow Earth novel, with the most famous work being that of Jules Verne, Journey to the Center of the Earth in 1864. I have also come across 59 other fictional books that describe adventures to an inner Earth world, 8 comics, 25 films since 1935, 15 TV series, and numerous tabletop and video games. I think it is safe to say that Edmund Halley and John Cleves Symes really started something big. The Cult of Koresh. Cyrus Teed was an eclectic physician from the US who in 1869 claimed to have heard the voice of God coming from his own body during an unconscious experience that many believe was brought upon by electric shock. According to author David Standish, Teed sees himself saying, quote, "Fear not, my son. thou satisfactory offspring of my profoundest yearnings. As he was given hold of his body again, he watched as a brilliant light appeared above his head, with 12 diamonds that merged and birthed the human form of a beautiful woman. Shimmering beautiful purple and gold cloth with a winged staff standing on a silver crescent, the woman announces that she is God, and that she herself is the embodiment of the Father, Son, and Mother together. The vision continues for some time, and when he awakens, he is lying on his couch in his laboratory. Now, to me, personally, this sounds like a near-death experience. This may remind many of a drug-induced hallucination, but what is very interesting is what he claimed to have been told by who he referred to as God. He claims to have been told a huge secret of existence, and that was that the light was both matter and energy. Why is this important, you ask? Well, in 1801, a man by the name of Thomas Young began experimenting on light to discover whether light was either made of particles or waves. Particles being the representation of matter and waves being a representation of energy. Yes, the research into this question began in 1801, but it wasn't until 108 years later in 1909 when G.I. Taylor performed the first low-intensity double-slit experiment which unveiled that light behaved as both matter and energy. So Cyrus Teed had claimed to have been given incredibly important information about physics that was completely unknown at the time about the properties of light. If you would like to learn more about this incredible discovery, listen to part 1 of our coverage on the simulation theory, where we go a little deeper into the history of the double slit experiment. We will also be diving deeper into this topic in an upcoming episode of the Infinite Rabbit Hole. Among other truths unveiled to Teed by his visitor, he has also learned 1. The entire universe is a spherical shell, and that all life in the universe lives upon its concave interior. 2. The Earth being no different than another layer of that shell, with other shells of spherical shells below its crust. With humans living on the inside concave portion of the crust instead of the convex outside of the crust that the rest of the world believed. God is both male and female and is personal to every individual. Matter is destructible, but only deconstructs into energy, and energy can be made up into matter. Reincarnation exists. Heaven and hell are mental conditions within our minds. We need to get rid of money, power, and wage slavery in order to correspond correctly with the Christian church. The universe is based off equity and not equality. To say two separate people are equal would mean that neither are individuals. And lastly, number 10, according to author David Standish in his book Hollow Earth, quote, "The Bible is the best written expression of the divine mind, but it is written symbolically. The symbols must be interpreted by a prophet who would appear in every age and in the context of that age." What we are most interested in today is his first point made. The Earth is a hollow sphere, holding other hollow spheres and itself being within another hollow sphere known as the universe. In fact, Teed claimed that there were an additional 17 different layers of spheres within the inner Earth. The shell of the Earth that we live on, the inside of, was 100 miles thick, and every layer had its own atmosphere with a void above that atmosphere. He was the first to claim that we ourselves were living within the hollow when he stated that the universe was a shell itself and with a void above each atmosphere. It would then seem as if each civilization on each ring of the Earth would look up at night and see their own version of the universe on the concave side of the crust above their void. This model that he had founded was referred to as the cosmogenic egg. Eventually, Cyrus Teed changed his name to Koresh and founded the Koreshian community, which practiced Koreshanity. He amassed a following of 200 at the peak of his commune that would eventually be established in southwestern Florida and be known as Estero. Here is where he would expand upon his belief that we lived on the interior of the planet's shell, and with the help of a Professor Morrow and an invention called a rectilianator would be built to prove his belief. The purpose of the rectilianator was to measure the curvature of the Earth. The instrument was built using 10 large double T-squares made of mahogany. These individual T-squares were set on 10 carefully balanced mounts of sorts. The test would take place on the beach in Naples, Florida, and a month would pass before the instrument was calibrated and the entire experiment would be known as the Koreshian Geodetic Survey. The outline of the experiment had them lining up the contraption in a linear formation with each of the 10 sections in front of the other. When ready, the back portion would be removed and brought to the front and recalibrated to sit properly level. This would continue for 4 miles out to sea from their location, and it was predicted by Teed that the contraption would touch water at about 4 miles, which would prove that the Earth curved inward instead of the believed outward. 5 months and 4 miles later, the Rectilianator touched water, and Teed had announced victory on May 5th, 1897. Of course, there is no telling if his experiment was run correctly. Mainstream science sure didn't think so, as we are still taught that we live on the outside shell of the Earth. All in all, there is a lot more to the story of Teed and the Koreshans. But since it doesn't have anything to do with the concept of Hollow Earth, we'll have to wait to save that for another day.
They always tell you there's a catch, a compromise, an asterisk. Terms apply. See store for details. May be less than advertised. May vary by mood. Probably. Sprite Zero Sugar? It's different. It's the lemon lime flavored refreshment you want with zero sugar. So, no fast voice? No caveats. Just refreshment. This is Sprite Zero Sugar. Obey your thirst.
New Year, same extra value meals at McDonald's. So now get 2 snack wraps, plus fries, and a medium soft drink for just $8.
For limited time only. Prices and participation may vary. Prices may be higher in Hawaii, Alaska, and California, and for delivery.
Oh, it's such a clutch off-season pickup, Dave.
I was worried we'd bring back the same team.
I meant those blackout motorized shades.
Blinds.com made it crazy affordable to replace our old blinds.
Hard to install?
No, it's easy. I installed these and then got some for my mom. She talked to a design consultant for free and scheduled a professional measure and install.
Hall of Fame son.
They're the #1 online retailer of custom window coverings in the world.
Blinds.com is the GOAT.
Visit Blinds.com now for up to 45% off site-wide, plus a free professional measure. Rules and restrictions apply.
The Shaver Epic. The story of Richard Sharp Shaver and his relationship with a subterranean world known to him as Lemuria is one of, if not the most incredible and detailed stories that anyone has ever told in respect to the topic of the Hollow Earth. Shaver discovered these past memories while welding at a Ford assembly plant in Michigan. Voices would come to him from what he believed to be the underworld while he was at work, and he would go on to publish an entire book on his memories of his past life as a man of sorts by the name of Mutton Mayan, who lived many thousands of years ago in Mu, a local term used for the entirety of the underworld realm of Lemuria. The book was titled I Remember Lemuria and was published in 1948. But before it was published as a book, it was printed in small doses in a fictional magazine titled Amazing Stories by none other than Ray Palmer. Along with these voices that were apparently beamed into his head by what we would learn later would be referred to as a mind control ray, he was also given visions to enhance the reality of those stories that he would eventually publish in his mind. The story was later removed from being included in the publication as Shaver went on to publicly announce that the stories were not fiction and that everything he said in his tellings of the events and details were actually true. This caused Palmer, who strongly believed Shaver, to leave Amazing Stories and create the popular publication amongst Fortean fanatics, Fate magazine. His story began by introducing himself as Mutton Mayan and his explanation of his hometown, if you will, of Sub-Atlan. This Sub-Atlan was named such as it was a city built directly below the surface version, which was referred to as Atlantis. In this world, there were titans, and these titans were considered to be the elders in which knowledge, wisdom, and experience was archived and distributed by their words. Titans lived amongst the typical subhumans, and in the case of enough being present, the city in which they populated would become known as a Titan city. The inner Earth's general geological structure consisted of layers in which the inhabitants would take large elevators or public vehicles that worked off manipulated gravitational forces to traverse amongst what Shaver referred to as Center Mu and the subsurface. Early in this epic, he describes how Mutton Mayan had decided to visit a metropolis known as Teen City in Center Mu to learn potion science under the recommendation of an artistic mentor of his. Upon his arrival to Teen City, he was surprised to find that his body felt nearly weightless from the lack of gravitational influence in the deep underworld. Lemuria was populated by many races of humans and humanoids from other planets. Through generations of interbreeding, many of these different races would be birthed, which created the term veriforms, which was used as an umbrella term in place of terms like breed or race. The amount of veriforms was difficult to pinpoint as hybrids bred with other hybrids, which led to new or sub-veriforms being created regularly. Among these veriforms, Shaver regularly mentioned humanoids with hooves, tails, horns, glittery skin, and many other combinations of attributes shared from both living creatures on Earth and in the realms of our mythologies. Among the already mentioned citizens of the underworld of Lemuria, there are two other races of elders that need to be mentioned: the Deros and the Teros. Both names stand as an abbreviation for their own terms. Deros, short for detrimental robots, and Teros for integrated energy robots. The evil Deros stood as the filter that keeps the subsurface a secret from those on the outer world of the planet. They are known to famously weaponize mind control rays, aka the Talog, in order to kill, manipulate, and progress their views of the world in which they wish to live. During Shaver's recounting of his past life as Mutton Mayon, he explains how it is the Deros that were responsible for keeping the citizens of Lemuria from migrating to a safer star system. He specifically mentions an event where he was at a dance with his love interest, Arl, when a Titan was killed by another type of instant death ray weapon. This is also where we learn that this ray was known as the Black Death. The Teros, on the other hand, have the power to use a ray of their own to not only counter the ray of the Deros, but also kill the user of the weapon when it can be determined where the individual is. This is done by pointing their own ray at the Black Death, which allows the Teros ray to follow it like a pathway and kill the user. With that being said, the Teros are the civilization's elders who are tasked with the important job of getting the inhabitants of the subterranean world off of this planet before more harmful quote-unquote seeds from our sun eventually ruin their perfect health and ability to stay alive for hundreds of years. The story continues on for quite a while and is full of many science fiction staples such as space flights, sexy women, mystery, aliens, UFOs, and of course, a hero. In this case, it would be Shaver himself as Mutton Mayon. But is the Shaver mystery really what it is said to be? Richard Sharp Shaver. Born in Berwick, Pennsylvania in 1907, Richard Sharp Shaver was a troubled boy who is said to have two invisible friends, one in which he referred to as his best friend, and the other as his worst enemy. After school, he would enroll in the Wicker School of Art in Detroit, where he would become a nude model for 35 cents an hour, which comes out to be about $6.15 an hour in 2023 due to inflation. He would marry a Russian woman who would attend the art school by the name of Sophie Gurevich and would parent a daughter together in 1933. In 1930, Shaver would join the communist group known as the John Reed Club, where he was portrayed in the Detroit Times newspaper as a speaker during one of their rallies. Times became very hard for Richard when the Depression hit and ended up working for a factory that built Fords in Michigan as a welder for 10 cents an hour. On August 17, 1935, Richard was admitted to the Ypsilanti State Hospital after he began explaining that he was hearing voices that were discussing the realm of the underworld while he worked. Before he was admitted, he became extremely paranoid about being followed by what? Well, he never really explained, but he believed that whoever it was wanted to hurt him for their belief that he was a communist, which he was, and a homosexual, which he claims that he was not. During interviews later in life, Shaver explains that he was admitted to for psych evaluations after suffering a stroke while he was at work, which made it hard for him to speak. He claimed that he was only in the hospital for 2 weeks. But author Jim Probst's research that was documented in his book Shaver, The Early Years, stated that paperwork proved that he was admitted for longer than 2 weeks. No paperwork exists about when he was released, but there are evaluation sheets dated for weeks after the 2 weeks that Shaver had claimed. The infamous Shaver letters began in 1936, when Richard wrote to Science World magazine in response to an article by Albert F. Yeager, which highlighted a possible origin of the alphabet. He claims that 6 of our modern letters not only stood as just letters, but also as concepts. Shaver wrote agreeing with Yeager and claimed that he could go further back than that and began to describe his knowledge of the original Earth language that he referred to as Montan. in which he also claimed was solid proof of the historical existence of the lost civilization of Atlantis. Side note, this is the true beginning of the now famous Shaver mystery. And in December 1943, Ray Palmer published both the letters and the attached outline of the so-called Montauk alphabet. The response from the readers was incredible. Many people from across the country claimed that everything that Shaver had pointed out was spot on and worked in every application that it was applied to. What exactly that means, I do not particularly know, and I was unable to get clarification on this particular point. But after the incredible feedback from the readers, Palmer reached out to Shaver via a handwritten letter requesting more information about this alphabet. Shaver happily obliged with a 10,000-word article which went into great detail about his experience with the world of Lemuria, the Deros, the Taros, mind control rays, space travel, and incredible beings. With response in hand, Palmer made major edits to the work and ended up publishing the once 10,000-word piece as a 31,000-word article. This new exaggerated version of the Shaver experience, soon to be famously known as the Shaver Mystery, was labeled as a true story and almost instantly became a national sensation, with many people coming forward with their own encounters with the evil Deros. People were claiming that they had once fallen victim to their mind control ray, or their neighbor was an actual Deros themselves, or asked questions about certain events, and if they were related to the Deros in any way. Well, that's it, everybody. That's all I got on part 2 of Hollow Earth, Legend, Lore, and Belief. We took some pretty crazy paths down the infinite rabbit hole in this one. Yeah, I'll admit it. These are pretty crazy, but they're exciting. They're interesting. And they have everything to do with the history of Hollow Earth. But the next 2 episodes dive into much more down-to-earth things, such as in part 3, we'll be covering exploration and the explorers who conducted these explorations. And then in part 4, we're going to wrap it up with a lot of really cool stuff on the life and flying saucers found in the Hollow Earth. Well, that's it, travelers. Go ahead and hit that 5-star rating, please, and share this episode with everybody you know. Thanks to you, we have survived almost 4 years. 2 more weeks, and we'll be 4 years old. And that's thanks to you. Thanks to everybody who's spent the time listening to the Infinite Rabbit Hole for the last 4 years. I really don't have much else to say, travelers. But without further ado, I'll go ahead and let you go, let you get on with the rest of your day. And until next time, travelers, I'll see you at the next fork in the path of the Infinite Rabbit Hole. Goodbye. I would like to thank you once again for tuning into the Infinite Rabbit Hole podcast. Please make sure to give us a follow and one of those beautiful 5-star ratings on your podcast player of choice. If you would like to join the conversation and stay up to date on all things Infinite Rabbit Hole, head on over to Facebook and search for the Infinite Rabbit Hole Facebook group. You'll know it's us when you see the logo. If you would like to help contribute to the cause, there are a few ways to do so. First, head on over to anchor.fm/Infinite Rabbit Hole and click on the subscribe button, where for $5 a month you'll get access to all our old episodes that will never see the free spotlight ever again. It's horrible stuff, but if you're into that kind of thing, then go check it out. Second, head on over to InfiniteRabbitHole.com and click on the IRH merch shop tab and grab yourself a sweet t-shirt, sticker, or whatever else you see that you wouldn't mind owning. Until next time, travelers, I'm Jeremy, and I'll see you at the next fork in the path of the Infinite Rabbit Hole. Bye.
Well, the holidays have come and gone once again, but if you've forgotten to get that special someone in your life a gift, well, Mint Mobile is extending their holiday offer of half off unlimited wireless. So here's the idea. You get it now, you call it an early present for next year. What do you have to lose? Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Limited time 50% off regular price for new customers. Upfront payment required. $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan. Taxes and fees extra. Speeds may slow after 50 gigabytes per month when network is busy. See terms.